Hello everybody, Anna Sabramowitz here, your interactive storytelling coach. Welcome my storytellers. How are you today? It's Monday, another day to change the world, another week to take it on by force, make a difference in somebody's life. Hope you're ready. Okay, so today's session, I'm really going to go back to the basics of storytelling. A lot of people want to learn about storytelling, how to use it in their e-learning, what the structure is. And today what I'm going to do is go over the basics with you, but also give you a little bit of the flavor of what's coming up. So as you know, interactive storytelling is a little different than storytelling. Maybe you don't know that. That's totally cool too. So what I'm going to do over the next couple of weeks is really get into the mechanics of what it means to actually craft a really good interactive story and some specific elements that you can incorporate depending on your context. But one of the things that I want to do as well is contextualize those examples for you. So I'll be sharing also a piece that I think represents a really good, that strategy really well executed, right? So I think that'll be good because you'll get the confirmation of like, oh, this is what it looks like in action. And I'll also be talking about, why you want to use those strategies depending on the context. Because a lot of this is not, it's not about the software at all. There are some elements that you want to incorporate that will make the experience better, but at the core of it, the very core of it, you got to have a solid story. And if you don't, give people agency to control that story, it'll suck. So it doesn't matter how sexy it looks. It doesn't matter how many gamification elements you add on top. If the foundation sucks, your experience will suck. And you know this because you've probably gone to a really awesome blockbuster movie and you felt nothing at the end. You didn't care how it finished because the story didn't grip you, right? So what we're here talking about today is how do you craft that? How do you craft an interactive story that actually moves people, connects to them emotionally? Because once you can trigger those emotions and connect with people, that's what drives into action. Behavior, all that stuff, it's driven by emotion. So what we're trying to do with an interactive story is tap into emotion and grab their attention, because if you don't have any of that, nothing else down the line matters. If you don't have somebody's attention and you haven't gripped them emotionally invested, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how good the end is. So, are you ready? Are you ready to optimize for this? All right, just gonna bring up my feed. You better say hi if you are visiting from someplace other than my house. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. So I'm just gonna bring up the chat, see what's going on. Hopefully everything is loaded and coming on here. All right, sweet. Okay, so first off, and by the way, if you're finding these useful, share them with a friend. I want everybody to be comfortable with storytelling. The reason I'm doing this is because I think that I know storytelling is a medium for us to learn. And the reason I know this is because our brains are so tuned into story. And this is before, we had cinematic experiences. So that also means that it's an evolutionary adaptation, right? For you to understand stories, follow stories, organize information in stories, connect emotionally to characters that you don't know anything about. All those are elements of learning and great strategy. So if you can leverage that, think about that, right? That's pretty awesome. So, okay. First off, I just wanted to tell you a little bit of a story. Oh, we've got Teddy here. We've got Jennifer. We've got Ellis. We've got Lauren and Elizabeth. This is so cool. You guys, sorry, my chat's super delayed. And Terrence is here. Awesome. You guys are great. Thanks for saying hi. Okay. So years ago, when I started working as an instructional designer, and some of you may have already heard this story, I got into it all doe-eyed and everything was going to be awesome. I really came from the training world. So for me, I really was focused on things like making sure that the learner is taken care of. They've got the optimal experience. They've got the optimal environment to learn, all those things, right? And for a while, I got to experience what that was like, right? I was a trainer and the organization I was working for really, and the people I worked with, my boss was super into that as well. And we just kind of we made it happen, right? Now here's the challenge. One of the things that happened was then I got a new job, right? And what happened is we started moving into the kind of work that is pure show and tell. Like it was just tell, next screens plus a quiz at the end. And I kid you not, 18-month projects with just screenshots over screenshots over screenshots of stuff, very little context, but just like straight up just pushing things into people, thinking that there's some sort of a vessel and they're just gonna figure out the context for themselves and all this stuff, right? And then I moved to a different job, and basically the idea was the same, but it was just a little bit differently phrased, right? What happened is we were told we could be innovative, but there were people who were afraid of that innovation and fear of potentially looking bad, or I don't know, not knowing, looking like they didn't know what they were doing, and so that was kiboshed. So this is the weird thing. Now, when you move from place to place like that, after a while, if you're reflective enough, and maybe if you have people around you who actually kick your butt a little bit, you realize that there's a pattern that you experience. And I know a lot of us are in workplaces that aren't open to new things. Aren't, like, when you say stories, people are like, what? That's gross. Like, that's not for adults, right? That's not for us, even though everybody goes home and watches Game of Thrones, right? Or whatever the next new thing is. I'm waiting. But one of the things that happens is you start seeing patterns over time, and you're like, I wonder if, and that this would happen to me. I realized that I probably could have affected more change at my workplace if I had a different attitude and if I was a little more confident in myself. But I wasn't. I wasn't confident enough. And what happened is, almost at some of the first signs of resistance, I would back down and I would be afraid to keep on pushing. And for a lot of us, this is reality. We give up a little bit too early. And I just saw a quote from Elon Musk, and he said only 1% of people continue pushing past major failure. And I realized that was me, and it wasn't necessarily the failure piece that kind of got me down. It was the resistance from other people. And so, you know, it's funny because you're like, oh, if I get a new job or if I start freelancing, which is what I did, I moved across Canada and I was like, I'm going to become my own independent person and a developer. And now I get to do the work that I really want to do. Now I'm going to be in charge. I'm going to be the creative one. I'm going to be the creative director that crafts these amazing learning experiences that move people to action and, in fact, change their lives. This is what I want to do, right? But guess what happened? The same thing happened because I was still the same person. And and also I didn't realize how pervasive some of those beliefs about what great e-learning should look like was. I didn't realize that it was my job to educate the client. They would come to me with expectations because they'd seen some terrible thing out there, some click next and maybe tabbed experience with some, click and reveal stuff, and they thought that was what they wanted. And for a while I did that, and I was frustrated because they wouldn't necessarily understand what I could create for them. So then what I did is I crafted an interactive story with the help of my partner Ryan. And that interactive story, it was built as a frustration. I was like, what can I build that, one, I have full autonomy over, two, will represent the kind of experience I as an adult would feel like somebody respected me because they put this together for me. And also that maybe I could learn a little bit something about myself. And so Broken Coworker came to be. And Broken Coworker is about bullying in the workplace. And it's funny, we swapped roles in there. It's not the typical dudes, harassing the lady. It's actually a woman bullying a man. And it's funny because I have conversations all the time with people who, especially other women, who would say, we talk about harassment and bullying and being assertive as a this kind of dynamic between men and women. But between women and women, there's also a very pervasive bullying, and I'm sure between guys, of course. But for me, it was that. And I realized through that interactive story, and it's kind of weird, is that I showed up to those past situations feeling like the world had to adjust instead of me looking inward and saying, what am I doing that's actually attracting, these negative feelings inside? So I just wanted to share that with you because I think that when you craft an interactive story, especially if you're doing something for your portfolio piece, you really want to craft something that will help people live better lives. And even if they never want to craft an interactive story with you, even if they're not even a person who makes the decisions to buy an interactive story or craft one for their organization, like, you get to help somebody. And what's cool is that not only do you get to help somebody, because I know this because I've had people reach out to me and say, I was in a workplace like this and this helped me. Oh, or I wish I would have seen this sooner because I would have dealt with some of those situations differently. But at the end of the day, I feel like I've made a difference. So when people talk about boring e-learning, when people talk about, this is so unsexy, that's kind of like the surface stuff. The more important thing is that you craft things that at the end of the day, you feel like you had an impact, and it's all about you. It's not, you're doing it for other people, and it's, yes, the reason you're in L&D is because probably you thrive crafting experiences, helping others, right? This is like huge for us. But at the end, it's not about if it's, the boring is kind of like the shallow reason why I don't want to put out crap. It's not because I think it's boring. It's because it doesn't speak well about me and I want to do better things. So that's why I got into interactive storytelling. And it was kind of an accident. So now now that you know why you should pursue it, and hopefully it inspires you to check it out more, I have an actual webinar with my whole story and also all the basically the patterns of what you need to do and why you need to do it to craft your own interactive story from scratch. Go to elearningsecrets.com. It's there. Anyways, let's talk about interactive storytelling of the framework now. Okay, and hey, Fakar's here too, and glad you guys are interested. Awesome. Okay, so first off, I just want to warn you, if you go down the rabbit hole of storytelling, right? It's, like I said, it's a part of our brain. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to write about it. If you read Joseph Campbell's book, he talks about basically how story has been in everything we do. It's an evolutionary adaptation feature, right? In everything we do. So what he did is he studied patterns across different cultures and religions about the hero's journey, right? This is where the hero's journey comes from. And he found these patterns, and he found all these pieces that you needed to craft an interactive story, or to craft a story that would compel people to learn, right? And connect emotionally. Now, this is what's the challenges. It's a rabbit hole, and it gets very, very, very complex. And you can actually go down this rabbit hole and never actually produce anything of value, because you'd be just overcomplicating things without putting something out, actually getting feedback from the user, right? And figuring out, did it resonate? So what I want to show you today is a framework that I use, that my students use. It's worked for us, and it's a good starting point, right? And there's more nuances. I can't show you everything in a single live, but one of the things that happens is if you begin with this framework, you probably on the right path, and you'll have enough to test with users, and you'll have enough to see if it works and it compels people emotionally, and you'll have enough to get you started. Because one of the things we do is we overproduce things and never actually test with the end user, right? So that's what's important for you guys to actually get from this, okay? All right. So, interactive storytelling. Can you guys see this? Can you guys see this? Just let me know. I'll wait a little bit to make sure that you guys can see it and you can actually read it. Let me know. I want to see it. I know there's like a 20-second delay between, when I say something and when you guys can actually respond. So let me know. I'll just go on, and then you guys can tell me. All right. So when you think of stories, you will like I said, there's lots of things that you'll find. There's lots of language, lots of events, lots of terminology. I'm just going to make it real simple because that's how I like to start from things. And then if you want to add complexity, you can do that based on user feedback and what kind of experiences and a bit of that, reflection. Like a good story, you don't just sit in front of a good story and you're like, one day you're done. A good story is kind of like math. You got to let it percolate. You got to let your subconscious work on it. Okay? So let's just go over the elements here. I don't know. Yeah, I haven't seen anything you guys pop up. If you guys can actually read my, let's see. Yeah, okay, fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a little small. Okay, I'll get a little closer here. Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so 3 elements of a compelling story. If you start with this, you're golden. It is a character who wants something, and something's getting in the way. A lot of us have this, this is where we mess up. We'll have a character who wants to finish the training. And what's getting in the way is him finishing the training. Not compelling, not cool. Or a character who wants to be the best at compliance. What's getting in the way? He hasn't gone through the training. Oh my God, that's boring. All right. So one of the things, so you see already, this is a little framework, right? And you can say, is this interesting? Is this compelling? Let me come up with one here. And maybe you guys can come up with some interesting ones, like for your audiences in the chat. I'd love to see you guys. You got to start I can't do all the talking. So let's say this is character, I'm going to call him Jim, because I think people like, when you actually call this person something. And Jim wants to take his mother, who has never been to Hawaii, on a trip to Hawaii for her 70th birthday. And what's really getting in the way is that he doesn't have the funds, but he is a sales rep and he could be in the top 20 if he wanted to. He doesn't think he can. But what's getting in the way is he doesn't have the skills. He's actually really shy. So he doesn't even know why he's in sales. But he's in sales, people like him. But what he really wants is to take his grandmother or his mother to Hawaii because she's never had a chance to go. Now that sounds a little more compelling. Might not be for your audience, but now I want to help Jim make sure that he gets there. Is some of the decisions in sales, him getting better sales so that he can reach his goal, financial goal, is that going to be a little bit more compelling? Probably, right? And you guys better write some stuff. I want to hear your ideas because that's how you get better. You get feedback from others, right? Or this is Louise. And Louise is actually just working at a retail store, right? She works for, let's say she works for Adidas, and she works at one of those cool shoe shops, right? It's awesome originals. All right, that's great. Now her goal is she actually saw. Let's see, what would be a really cool goal for her? Oh, I know. She's been saving up. She wants to move out on her own and actually basically become an independent. All of her siblings live at home, and she wants to be the first one, even though she's the youngest, to actually move out of the house and become her own woman and have her own apartment. And so what she's saving up is for a down payment for her own apartment or her own little studio apartment. And what's getting in the way? Well, she's got to meet some sales quotas to get that next bonus. Boom, right? More fun, right? This doesn't have to be like, I got to save the world or save my grandmother or take my mom to a place she'd never seen. Although that's pretty cool. It can be just about independence, right? It can be about these things. So what's getting in the way? And you can pull from movies, right? Like here's Luke Skywalker. He's just some, farmer kid. But what he really wants to do is fly a jet and save the galaxy and save the princess. Here's all the things that he has to do, all the obstacles he has to achieve in order to get there, right? Now this is what's really cool. If you just start with this, right? Say it with me. A character who wants something and something's in the way. So character, obstacle, desire. These 3 things will give you enough to craft an interactive story. You just have to make them compelling. Now, the other thing I want you to think about, and I'm going to be getting into this in later sessions, but this is really, really important. The person who begins this journey is not the same person who can achieve this, right? They're not. This person over here, let's say, is shy and introverted. The person who's able to be the top salesperson, top 20%, that's a different person. They have to become a different person to achieve this. this, if you think about, I mean, I'm going to do a reference because Luke Skywalker is so easy. The Luke Skywalker that you saw in the beginning of the story was an insolent teenager who was bored. He was a farm boy, right? Totally not the confident, skilled, awesome, self-reflective human that met his dad at the end, you know, whatever. Oh, did I give it away? Just kidding. So, so the reason what you want this to be a transformation for this character, right? You got to think about that. Now, don't overthink it, because that'll take you down a rabbit hole of perfectionism, and that doesn't get anything launched. What I want you to believe, and I want you to start off with, is that you have a framework. The framework works. Once you begin with this framework, you can add more complexity. You can add things like, hey, why did they actually decide to jump on this journey? What happened? Sometimes people have one of those like moments where they're like, you know, I've had enough. I've had enough. They come home and they see that their kids have like, you know, they're wearing their shoes and the shoes are really torn and they can't afford those shoes, and that was new shoes, and they were like, this is the last time my kid's gonna walk around in torn up shoes. I'm gonna make sure, you know, that could be Jim's reason. Who knows, right? And that could be like the moment that gets him going. That's what we call the inciting incident, right? But what we want to do is make sure that the person who starts off is different because of all the decisions that they had to make along the way that made them a better person, or revealed to them that they could be a different person, right? Now, this is what's amazing about interactive storytelling as well. One, storytelling in itself is a super powerful learning strategy, right? Helps us organize information, helps us remember things. Like, I bet you, if you were here from the very beginning, you could probably tell a bit about my story now because I told you that story, right? It's not a random sequence of events. It's actually a sequence of events that leads from one thing to the next. So that's what a story is, really. But this is what makes it so powerful, right? You've got an interactive story. The key there is interactive. When you add the element of agency, which is the ability to control that story, in a sense, control, and it's nothing to do with branching, you guys, so don't even focus on that. The reason you're adding story plus agency is because story itself is powerful, but if I get to be in charge of that story on behalf of some character, I feel so empowered, and this is so engaging because I get to see what happens as a result of my decisions, and decisions are super sexy, right? And super interesting, because that's what we do all day, is we decide. So it emulates life even more closely than anything. And now I get to, you know, you're basically taking story, 10xing it with agency. And on top of that, you're adding decisions that are contextual. What? That's awesome, right? And there's more goodness. If you are putting somebody on this journey through this character, and they get here, sometimes they don't get here. They have good and bad endings, right? Interactive stories do. And they really should. Because if I made poor decisions, I want to earn the bad ending. It's actually, it should feel like I've earned that because I made those bad decisions. That's actually a good thing. But let's say I earn the good ending too, or I go back and try it again to get the good ending. This is huge. It's not my win. It's Jim's win, right? But I helped him achieve it. That means that I get to feel ahead of time, ahead of doing all this crazy work, the satisfaction of a future that could be mine. A satisfaction of a win. That's awesome. And so what happens is, emotionally, not only do I feel satisfied because I've helped Jim and I cared about Jim, right? I cared about helping him come out on the top. But also now I see the possibility for myself. And that's what this is all about. In the end of, when I had my bullying interactive story, I don't want anybody to feel like it would be ridiculous for somebody to walk away from a 7-minute experience and be like, oh, yeah, now I know how to deal with bullies. No. What I want you to feel at the end of that experience, after you've seen Sam, his struggle, that he's about to quit the job he loves and give up the life that he relocated for this dream job. That's how much he wanted it. Now he's going to have to go back home and tell his fiance that he's basically a loser because he can't deal with this lady at work and he's quitting because of her. I don't want anybody to feel like they have mastered how to deal with bullies, but I want them to reflect on his journey and be like, maybe I could take some steps to address my behavior. Maybe it's my emotional intelligence that I could work on a little so that these people don't affect me so deeply. And that ending that he gets to, if it's the positive ending, is really for them to think about, hey, maybe I could do something for myself here. Not to be like, oh, I got it. High five to me, whatever. It's not how interactive storytelling works. All this is meaning to do is to take them on this journey, show them what could be theirs, and then at the end, you're leading them to sales training. You're leading them to how to upsell, whatever it is, right? You've contextualized it here because through the journey of somebody that could be like them, and then you're taking them to the real training. So a lot of people ask, well, Anna, does my training need to have storytelling in it? And I'm like, it depends. An interactive story stands alone. An interactive story can show you, it's meant to be a catalyst for other action, to take action, to look at other resources. But you're not putting resources in here. This is not a teaching thing. This is an aha thing. This is I didn't think I could do this thing, and I think I can do this thing now. It's like that. It's emotionally connecting to the journey, selling them on that journey, because people need to be sold on the journey because they got to figure out what's in it for them. Your what's in it for them is never going to be what's in it for them, right? This is just Jim's journey. You don't even know, right? So once they've sold themselves, if you present them with resources that will help them achieve their own what's in it for them, they'll love you for it and they'll jump right in. They'll embrace the discomfort of learning new things, right? So that's interactive story. And I'll get into more mechanics. This is kind of like a big picture overview, but I'll get to more mechanics later on. Hopefully that was like helpful and clear. And listen, I told you, like, to get into interactive storytelling, it's like I told you, this is it's not complicated. It just takes, it takes iteration, takes a little bit of effort, takes some feedback. And there's some people who I've shown this model to or have gone through my free webinar, and they're launching their own interactive stories. I absolutely love that. But there are some people who want extra help and who want extra coaching and accountability. And those are the people who join my coaching program. Because they know that this is powerful and they want to add this to their skill set. This doesn't replace instructional design. This is not a replacement for it. And I don't want anybody to feel like they need to add storytelling to everything that they do because we love stories. No, that'll just kill stories, right? If you have a job aid that shows me like the step-by-step process, please don't add a story in there. I just want to know what's going on. You don't need to add stories to those IKEA manuals, right? I mean, we already have a character. So one of the things you want to do is figure out where to use this tool strategically. And when you are using it strategically, it is like, what's a good analogy? It is like you have a pilot flame and you're taking gasoline and you're just going, pouring it on. It just accelerates whatever else is happening, right? Kind of sexy. Whew, kind of give me some shivers, but that's basically what it is. It doesn't replace what you're doing now. It augments it so you get better results. So I hope that was helpful. If you want to work with me because you're tired of, producing stuff that's click next and my story resonated with me and you want to find out more about how you can do this for you, I'd love to talk to you. We're having an intake right now for the next month. I'm looking for 4 more people to join us. It would be awesome because I help you launch an interactive story, whether that's for people who are in an organization who they feel they can influence. And if you're in one of those places, my gosh, you are so lucky. Enjoy that. Because I'm not saying it's rare, but if you have the backing, oh, I love that. Some of you don't have the backing. Some of you will have to work on this on your own time. I'm there to help you as well. So I'll put a link underneath the video to book a strategy session with me. We'll talk about where you're at, if this is even a fit for your goals, because it's not for everybody. And then we'll see where it goes from there. All right. So I hope you guys have a fabulous rest of the day. I hope you found this useful. Like I said, tune in this week and the next week. I'm really going into the mechanics and giving you some examples of those mechanics in action. Basically, as you craft your interactive story, what's the piece that goes on top after you've got it crafted? There's some things you can tweak and add here to make the experience more contextual, more compelling, more difficult, and how do we do that, right? So that's what we'll be getting into in the next 2 weeks. All right, so enjoy, my friends. Have a wonderful rest of the day, and thank you so much for being here, my interactive storytellers. I know you could be watching other things right now, like kitty and bunny videos, and you decided to hang out with me, and I appreciate that. Thanks very much, you guys. Bye.